Torn between two countries and troubled for 60 years. As Pakistan and India celebrate their partition, what will become of Kashmir, the state that divides them? This is Inside Story. Hello, I'm Darren Jordan. Well, this week, India and Pakistan mark 60 years of independence from Britain and, of course, each other. But there's one potent symbol of their differences that just won't go away. The picturesque state of Kashmir has been in turmoil ever since partition in 1947. Both India and Pakistan claim it as their own and have fought two wars over it. Kashmiri separatists want independence. So what does the future hold for this troubled Himalayan region? And can the dispute ever be resolved? Well, let's take a quick look now at the history of the partition. Ravya Rage has the story.
August 1947. Millions of people move across the Indian subcontinent as the land is partitioned into two states. In between the new countries, Kashmir. Other territories on the subcontinent chose to become part of India or Pakistan, but Kashmir's ruler, a Hindu, wanted the state to remain independent. But just 2 months later, Pakistani-backed tribal groups invaded it. What happened next is still disputed and at the heart of India's claim to the territory. India says Kashmir's ruler signed over some of his powers. In return, India would help fight the invading tribes, and Kashmir would hold a referendum on its future. But that vote never happened. India and Pakistan have now fought two wars that have centered on Kashmir, most recently in 1965. Both countries control part of the state and both lay claim to the area. Pakistan says Kashmir, with its 60% Muslim population, should be part of Islamic Pakistan. But India maintains Kashmir's leader agreed to become part of India almost 60 years ago. However, there are signs of movement on the issue. Since 2004, the two sides have held talks in an effort to end the conflict. Transportation links between the two countries have resumed, and some routes go through the disputed region. Meanwhile, a vocal separatist movement is driving calls for independence, some signs of progress. But so far, Kashmir's fate remains unresolved.
Well, we're joined now by our guests. In Islamabad is retired General Talat Massoud, a political and defence analyst. Retired General Afsir Karim joins us from Delhi. And on the phone from Winchester in England is Khurshid Drabu, a human rights activist. Gentlemen, welcome to the programme. General Talat Massoud in Islamabad, let me start with you, if I may, because the partition in 1947 saw one of the largest mass migrations in history. 15 million people on the move, Muslims going to Pakistan, Hindus and Sikhs going to India. There was horrendous violence and massacres, as we know. So do you think today's celebrations are slightly hollow?
Well, I think, that is very true, but I think now that is the past, and I think we have to look into the future, and we have to see that how much we have achieved and how much more we can achieve. So I think it's not really a question of having celebrations which are hollow. There is sort of a determination on the part of the people to look towards a more prosperous Pakistan, somewhat more, credible Pakistan, and a Pakistan in which has good relations with India and with good relations with all its neighbors, and wants to bury the past. So I think the younger generation particularly is not interested so much in the hostility as there has been. That generation is now passed away, and a new generation is wanting a new Pakistan and a new region which is vibrant, which is economically prosperous, and is able to take part in the globalization process as a true independent nation.
Afsir Karim in Delhi, let me come to you, if I may. Should the past be forgotten, as General Massoud in Islamabad seems to think? I mean, how do Indians look in on these celebrations? Because you're about to start your celebrations in a few hours' time.
I think this is the time to celebrate, because for 60 years we have been a vibrant democracy. We have progressed economically, and we are recognized as one of the major world powers. And I think this is time to celebrate to that extent. Of course, we have to look at the past and learn lessons, but not to look too much deep into that and go into some kind of repentant mourning. So I think it is a time for celebration, and we should continue to do that. And General Talat Masood is also right that the new generation is something which is, they don't even talk about that subject, they don't know anything about it. And this is a new beginning.
Khurshid Drabu on the phone in Winchester there in the United Kingdom. I mean, is there really much to celebrate in terms of the partition? I mean, both countries are still arch enemies and they continue to clash over Kashmir, for example.
Yes, there is a lot to celebrate. In fact, I mean, the people of Kashmir are very happy that India and Pakistan are independent countries. But at the same time, Kashmiris feel that they are a forgotten people. Both countries made promises with regard to Kashmir. And unfortunately, both countries have lost a lot of blood, lost a lot of energy, lost a lot of resources fighting over Kashmir in the last 60 years. And the people of Kashmir are saying, well, we are humans, we need to be consulted, and we would like to be a bridge of peace and bridge of tranquility between the two countries. And in that context, it's very refreshing that both governments of India as well as Pakistan appear to be moving towards resolving the issue, which has been a sore point in the relations of the two countries. And people of Kashmir are very happy with that, but the progress is rather slow, and people are feeling a little impatient. And we very much hope that the process that began in 2004 and which has been continued by the Prime Minister Manmohan Singh takes a new vibrancy, and we get to the point where the two countries live in peace, with Kashmir being a bridge between the two.
All right, well, stay with us, won't you? Because I want to just go back to General Talat Masood in Islamabad. I mean, Kashmir continues to be a flashpoint both for India and Pakistan as they celebrate their independence and, of course, the partition. President Musharraf staunchly defended Pakistani sovereignty. How much do you think Kashmir was on his mind when he was doing that?
Well, I think as far as Kashmir is concerned, one thing is very clear. I think both governments realize that there is no military solution to the problem, and that is for the simple reason that both are nuclearized, and both have learned the lessons that they just cannot proceed militarily as far as Kashmir is concerned. Then I think the events of 9/11 and the globalization and all these factors, and also the domestic situation in both the countries and their desire to move economically forward, have brought them together to find a solution to the Kashmir problem through the process of dialogue. And as you know, it has been they started off in 2004 and have been continuously trying to find some sort of a resolution of Kashmir, although there has been very small progress. But at least as far as the confidence building measures are concerned, I think Pakistan and India have made definite progress, and there is a ceasefire which is holding, and that has brought in a qualitative change. Then there have been also some very good confidence building measures, in the sense that the people of Kashmir have been allowed to move from one side to another, and there is also a lot of confidence building measures in respect of India and Pakistan. So I think if there is a forward movement on Kashmir, which could well be if India actually responds positively to the several initiatives which have been taken by President Musharraf, because I think he is one person who has shown extraordinary flexibility, and I think it is time now that India should.
OK, let's bring back in Afsia Karim there in Delhi. General Masood makes an important point here, because isn't the biggest problem that an independent Kashmir would mean both India and Pakistan giving up valuable territory? That's a big problem, isn't it?
Actually, when you talk of Kashmir, there is no such single entity as Kashmir. Kashmir is of different regions with different ethnic groups and different ideas. So when you talk of a Kashmir problem, yes, there is a problem, and the talks are going on well, and there is great progress, and both countries desire peace now. Actually, the basic issue is if you want a peaceful solution, and that's what it seems that General Musharraf and Prime Minister Manmohan, both are absolutely certain in their mind that only a peaceful solution can emerge, and they are both working towards it. So I think there is hope. The question is, it's a complex problem. It cannot be solved overnight. It has gone on for many years. So I think the progress will be slow. And from Indian side, you know, India is a parliamentary democracy. Unlike General Musharraf, Prime Minister Manmohan cannot take a decision on his own. He has to consult various agencies and take confidence of the parliament. So therefore, the progress from this side seems slow, but it is not so. Actually, it's quite deliberate, and as far as possible, we are moving forward.
All right, and also that's an interesting point. Let me just bring in back Khurshid Drabu on the phone there in Winchester, because isn't Kashmir itself split on which way people want to go? I mean, a recent survey showed that Hindu-dominated Jammu wants a cession to India, while most people in Srinagar want an independent Kashmir. So there are vast differences between what people want within the region itself.
Of course, it's a very complex problem, as has been pointed out, but we are looking for peace. Solutions are something that can be worked out between the people of Kashmir as well as the governments of India and Pakistan. And what is good now is the realization that the problem cannot be resolved by force. And that is very good. The people of Kashmir welcome that, because we have been victims in the last 60 years. We have seen blood being shed on the roads of Kashmir on both sides. And it is about time that the issue is resolved peacefully. As has been pointed out, I mean, Kashmir is not one single entity. I mean, there are many factors that need to be taken into account. And what we hope very much, really, because I visit Kashmir regularly, the people of Kashmir are getting a bit tired. And they are saying that we need peace and we need certainty for our future, and we need to be consulted, we need to be thought about as human beings. And it's not just a war on territory, it's not a war between two countries or an issue between two countries about territory. It's about the aspirations of people who seek peace with both peoples of India as well as Pakistan, and who want security and who want prosperity for both countries, because we belong in that region and we belong to both countries, and we very much like to be the bridge between the two countries.
OK, Khurshid Drabu in Winchester in the UK. We're going to have to say goodbye to you at this point in the programme. Thank you very much indeed. Well, time for a short break now, but when we come back, what unites Pakistan with India, and how will that play out for the future of Kashmir? Stay with us. Welcome back. Well, it's not all gloom between India and Pakistan. Relations between Delhi and Islamabad have been warming, and they do have a number of shared interests. First, both oppose an independent Kashmir, which would see them lose territory, of course. The international community is unlikely to accept it either. Meanwhile, India is booming, and to meet the needs of its energy-hungry economy, the two countries have signed up for a lucrative project. The deal, worth over $3 billion, will see gas transported from southeastern Turkmenistan to India via Afghanistan and Pakistan. Both countries have alarming levels of poverty, but continue to run expensive nuclear and defence programmes. Cooperating could save them money. Well, joining us again, our guest, retired General Talat Massoud, a political and defence analyst. He's in Islamabad. In Delhi, retired General Afsir Karim, a South Asian affairs expert. And joining us for the first time in this discussion from Toronto is Eric Margolis. He's an author and journalist. Eric Margolis in Toronto, let me start with you. Kashmir nearly brought both countries to the brink of nuclear war. How dangerous is the standoff over Kashmir, and could it happen again, do you think?
It's less dangerous now than it was when Pakistani troops moved into the Kargil region, in fact, under the direction of General Musharraf, and brought the two nations really to the brink of war. And it could very well have gone nuclear if India had gone ahead with its plans to stage a massive invasion of Pakistan. Fortunately, cooler heads prevailed in India. It didn't happen. But the fact that there's very little warning time between the two countries who have nuclear-armed strike forces, it's said to be within minutes, and not totally reliable command and control systems in the military, the danger of a nuclear war is still there, and a clash with hot pursuit by Indian forces, for example, could very well trigger a clash. The danger's not over. It's considerably abated, certainly way less than it was in 1999, but it's still there and demands resolution of the Kashmir disputes.
Okay, so they still have big differences, particularly over the issue of Kashmir. But, I mean, does anything unite India and Pakistan on the positive side?
Well, not much. You know, I look at them like an old divorced couple who knows each other too well and never misses a chance to needle each other and harbors resentments. It is true a younger generation is not as infused with this problem. It is a terribly debilitating problem for both countries. It's bleeding their economies, and there is more goodwill now to resolve the problem. And, you know, it's like the equally old Palestinian dispute. The outline of a resolution is perfectly evident. It is autonomy for Kashmir of some sort, and the gradual erasure of the line of control that divides the Indian and Pakistani controlled sections. So it becomes like the island of Saint Martin, the West Indies, which is partly run by the Holland and partly by France, but doesn't really make much of a difference inside. But the problem is that the politicians on both sides lack the power or the will to go against important constituencies in their own countries who would oppose this.
Okay, let's bring in General Afsir Karim in Delhi. I mean, in terms of economic resources and growth, many observers say that India did far better out of partition than Pakistan. Is that correct, do you think?
Well, to an extent, but such comparisons cannot be made in this context we are talking about.
Well, let's bring in General Massoud there in Islamabad. I mean, and just talk about some current politics in the kind of wider picture, because Pakistan has largely been governed by military rule since independence. Has that been a benefit or a hindrance, do you think?
Well, I think it has been a great hindrance because it has not helped in the development of institutions in Pakistan. And as you know, when the military comes into power, then obviously the other institutions get weak. And Pakistan from the very beginning had weaker institutions because it inherited that part of India which was relatively weaker both in institutions, in bureaucracy, in resources and in infrastructure, both human as well as physical. So I think what was needed was a sound footing on democratic lines, but unfortunately because of our conflict with India and also the way that it is geostrategically located, because of the fact that we also became a part of the Cold War system in which we were aligned very closely with the US, that also gave the Pakistan Armed Forces a lot of importance, and I think that strengthened the military much more in relative terms to the other institutions, and then this conflict and hostility with India kept on pouring resources again into defense. So I think that gave an unbalanced sort of a development of the military, which resulted in also developing a vacuum in the power structure, and the army then more or less running the affairs of the state for all these years. But I think now there is a great realization amongst all masses, including the military, that they have to go back to the barracks. And I think this 2007 elections will be a defining moment for Pakistan, in which democracy would be placed on much sounder footing than hitherto.
I want to put this point of military balance to retired General Afsir Karim in Delhi and ask how significant is this issue of the military balance between India and Pakistan, particularly when, for example, both countries had nearly 1 million men on the line of control in 2002 during that confrontation. How important is that military balance?
The military balance keeps certain things in check. But I don't think there's such a difference as being made out all over by various people. They're not, you see, the military balance is related to the type of warfare is going to take place, the areas where the war can go. And if you look at the location of Pakistan and the way Indian army is spread all over in various theaters, the balance is not so much different as it appears. There, in fact, according to me, very little difference between the two powers.
Eric Margolis, let me get a final thought from you. How central do you think the issue of Kashmir is to friendly relations between India and Pakistan? And what do you see as the future for Kashmir?
Kashmir has poisoned relations between these two brother countries for 60 years. And it's essential that it be resolved. As I said, it's draining both of them, and beneath it is a danger. The longer this problem is unresolved, the U.S. intervention in the issue on the side of India has convinced a lot of people in Pakistan that their country's interests have been sold out, that the Kashmir independence movement has been betrayed by the Pakistani government. A lot of radicals in Pakistan are calling for a renewal of jihad in Kashmir. So this is not necessarily a positive sign. And India, on its hand, feels now that with U.S. backing, it has the upper hand with Pakistan. Pakistan is on the defensive, which it is diplomatically, militarily. Its armed forces are growing weaker while India is growing stronger. So the Pakistanis are being pushed to the edge. It's time to resolve this problem in the way that I have described quickly, before it gets out of hand.
Let's get a quick final thought from General Massoud in Islamabad. How do you see the Kashmir issue being resolved? Can it be resolved? And the future for Kashmir?
I think it can be resolved, because Pakistan has come very close to the Indian position. What is really needed is a little greater understanding on the part of India and accommodating, because the 4 points which General Musharraf had made in order to resolve the Kashmir problem really in the interest of the people of Kashmir and also in the interest of the people of India and Pakistan, and they are resolvable. And it is also being said by both the leadership now that there will be no territorial adjustment. So what is needed is to opening up the borders and linking up.
Thank you very much indeed. Gentlemen, General Asfir Karim in Delhi, General Talat Massoud in Islamabad, and Eric Margolis in Toronto, thank you very much indeed for joining us. And thank you so much for joining us here on this edition of Inside Story. We welcome your comments and suggestions. Please email them to us at insidestory@aljazeera.net. From the whole team here,